welcome to Sakal, Bhatt, and genext is your show that gives the generation next of the country the platform to voice their views on the issues that concern them directly or indirectly. Today, the next gen of the country is the iPad generation, for whom internet is the necessity or perhaps the way of life. And for a nation with more than 100 million internet users and social networking websites, social media has gained tremendous prominence in terms of mobilizing public opinion, but also has this freedom being taken for granted? That's the big question we're going to discuss today. Today on the show, we take a very hard look at the pros and cons of freedom of speech and expression on the internet, or the net culture. That's what we talk about. Can that net content be monitored, and does it really amount to censorship of thoughts or freedom of speech and expression on the internet? Something that has come under severe criticism from netics, people who regularly are, on the internet websites, voicing their concerns, blogging or micro-blogging for that matter. And on the show, we are very glad to have today with us Vivek Mishra. He's computer and IT expert. Thank you so much, Vivek, for joining us. I'm very glad to have Pawan Dugal with Cyber. Pawan, for being with us today. Let me very quickly start with you.
Sure.
The government's intention of regulating internet has met with a very strong criticism for certain quarters, the netizens, that's how we identify them. Why is there this severe opposition when it comes to regulating internet content? Why?
The why can be answered by a simple question. You have started recording. Has somebody pre-censored or pre-monitored the script? Every time you go on and
but
visit,
there are guidelines.
There are guidelines, but nobody is actually rechecking your content. Nobody is actually saying that, okay, please show your entire script to me before you start speaking. Now, that's in the actual world. So what you can't pre-monitor or you can't predetermine in the actual world, why do you have to have specific rules and regulations which will help pre-moderate or pre-monitor content on the internet? That's something that's met with huge opposition. Please understand, everybody has got a fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression. And that right is guaranteed under Article 19 of the Constitution. Yes, as a state you can put reasonable restrictions, but that reasonable restrictions does not mean that you tantamount to providing denial of this basic right. Now, every time you write an email or every time you want to post something on the internet and somebody is going to check it, how will you like it? Now, that's the expression, that's the anger that's come up on the internet.
No, but you asked me, has my script been checked? But I have guidelines and I have to stick to them, and I've got a broader, perspective. This is how I'm supposed to go. But then if I suddenly go haywire, I would be checked. But when I go on internet and I see defamatory comments, I cannot do anything about it. Now that's where the question of regulation and censorship comes. So there, if there is an idea that, boss, we need to check you what you're writing because this is not correct and it may have a negative consequence also, where am I wrong? Isn't it correct?
But I think on the other side, if you are having, means some regulation should be there, but it's a self thing. Means a user should have that courage that if you are using something, that it should be positive or negative. So you have to have the your self analysis for that particular content, right? So there must be so many laws are there. Means I am not aware of that particular laws and all, but there should be some regulation, but it's not feasible at the technical point. Right, if you are having data centers and all, so there must be so much of manpower is there. So you have to have so many manpower means you have to put on for having regulation over the content. So rightly said by the Dugal sir. So if you are putting some mails to someone else, so you don't want to have some filtration process in that. So that is correct.
Do we have a filtration process? If we're particularly talking about defamatory comments, derogatory remarks about individual, could be anybody. So there is the need.
There is, please understand, we already have in place a particular law. This is the Information Technology Act 2000, which is the mother legislation that deals with everything pertaining to data and information in the electronic form. You've got a fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. लेकिन आपकी अभिव्यक्ति की स्वतंत्रता है, वो आपको ये अधिकार नहीं देती कि आप किसी की भी reputation को tear down कर लें. You cannot defame anybody. And if you do so, the law says you defame somebody online, not a problem. You get 3 years imprisonment and you get fine of 200,000 rupees or 2 lakh rupees. In addition, you can also be sued for damages by way of compensation. So आपके पास remedies तो हैं. But where is the question? जब आपके पास तरीका है, today, the Indian Penal Code says आप किसी का खून करते हैं तो दफा 302 भारतीय दंड संहिता कहती है